Coffee Break German, Lesson 29. Hallo zusammen und herzlich willkommen zu Coffee Break German.
Wir sind zurück mit einer neuen Episode und heute eine spezielle.
Ich heiße Mark.
Mein Name ist Thomas.
And we are here to help you with your German. And as Thomas said there, we've got something of a special episode for you today. If you'd like to find out more about this, stay tuned. Lass uns anfangen.
Auf geht's, Mark.
Now, before we tell you about what's coming up, I think we need to do a little bit of Wiederholung.
Sehr richtig.
A little bit of review. So bring it on, Thomas.
Number 1. Do you like your work?
As usual, I'll leave some time for our listeners. So, do you like your work? I'm going to change that into Denglish, and we'll make it pleases to you your work, which I think would be gefällt dir deine Arbeit?
Absolut richtig. Sehr gut.
And in the formal form, gefällt Ihnen Ihre Arbeit?
Gefällt Ihnen Ihre Arbeit?
Okay. So the next one?
Nummer 2. I don't like this book.
So once again, turning this around into German word order, to me, pleases this book not. Mir gefällt dieses Buch nicht.
Das Buch, neuter, very good.
So dieses Buch nicht. Mir gefällt dieses Buch nicht.
Mir gefällt dieses Buch nicht.
Okay, I don't like this book.
Nummer 3. I like eating Bockwurst, but Currywurst I don't like eating so much.
Okay, I have to be honest here, I'm not so sure about the word order, but I'll try saying, we're going to use gern here rather than gefällt. So, ich esse gern Bockwurst, aber ich esse nicht so gern Currywurst.
You can say it like that. You can also say, ich esse gern Bockwurst, aber Currywurst esse ich nicht so gern.
So in that situation, starting with Currywurst, you have to turn your verb around. Esse ich nicht so gern.
Yeah. So just to recap, there are 2 possibilities you can use. And the first one is, ich esse gern Bockwurst, aber Currywurst esse ich nicht so gerne. Or, ich esse gerne Bockwurst, aber ich esse nicht so gerne Currywurst.
Okay, can I just check? Are you saying gerne as opposed to gern?
Oh, yeah. Both ways are possible.
So we can say gern or gerne depending on our desire.
Where you come from, probably.
Okay, so maybe in some parts of the German-speaking world you would say gern, and in other parts you would say gerne.
Yes, but both are completely fine, and you can just interchange them as you want to.
What would you most naturally say?
I think I use gerne more often than gern.
Okay, but we can use either one. We don't need to use one in a particular place. You will be understood everywhere.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have another translation for me?
Number 4. My wife is a teacher and she works in a school in Frankfurt.
Okay, what I love about these sentences is that you're taking simple things that we know already and then combining them with other things that we know from other lessons. So I think this would be, meine Frau ist Lehrerin.
Ja, gut.
Und sie arbeitet, back to our grammar guru there, sie arbeitet in einer Schule in Frankfurt.
Ausgezeichnet, Mark, ausgezeichnet.
So in, what's the dative here?
Ja, in einer Schule.
In einer Schule.
Meine Frau ist Lehrerin und sie arbeitet in einer Schule in Frankfurt.
Okay. I think it's time to move on to the main content of this week's lesson, and it's quite exciting because this week we're running a competition. If you're listening to this lesson soon after it has been released, then you can enter our competition. If you happen to be later listening to the lesson, perhaps in another format or on another device, then you may no longer be able to enter the competition. But please do have a listen to our challenges that you're going to be trying to understand. Check the website for all the details, including the exact dates of our competition. So, what's the competition going to involve, Thomas?
It's about talking about people and finding out who we are talking about.
Exactly. So Thomas has written 5 paragraphs, 5 statements or 5 descriptions of particular people, famous people. I'm sure you'll be familiar with these people, but you've got to try and identify who these people are from the German. Now, the kind of things that you'll be saying will include things like perhaps when they were born. So how would you say, for example, he was born on the 20th of December 1969?
Ist, or if she was born, sie ist am 20. Dezember 1969 geboren.
Okay, so we might have dates, and from that you might try to identify who we're talking about. I'm sure Wikipedia will come in useful here. We also might hear about what people do for their job.
Professions.
And the word for profession or job was?
Beruf.
Beruf. And so how would we say she is, for example, a teacher?
Sie ist Lehrerin von Beruf.
Okay, sie ist Lehrerin von Beruf. What else might we hear about?
Maybe something about family, wife, husband, kids.
And of course, these elements will help you identify the people. Maybe you don't know who these people are. Maybe you don't know who their family are. But as I said, I'm sure some simple research online will help you identify these people. Just before we get started with the competition, Kirsten, our grammar guru, has some information for you that will hopefully help you to identify these mystery personalities.
Before you begin with the competition, I'd just like to give you a few grammar points to look out for in Thomas's descriptions. I'm not going to explain them all today, since you'll have enough to do figuring out who Thomas is talking about. One thing you might hear Thomas say is or sie war. This means he or she was. So that's the third person past form of the verb sein, as Thomas has already mentioned. Thomas also mentioned the construction ist, and then a date, geboren. When you hear this sort of construction, which has the third person singular of the verb sein, followed by another form of the verb, which is likely to start with the letters ge, that's another hint that this event took place in the past. Now, we're not trying to complicate things by introducing you to past tenses here in this lesson, but I thought it was useful to start sowing the seeds of some more complex grammar for future lessons. That's all from me today. I just wanted to give you some help with the competition, and from me, viel Glück.
Vielen Dank, Kirsten. Now, if you are taking part in the competition, there is a prize, and you can find out more about that on the website at coffeebreakgerman.com. Thomas, I think it's time to hear our first description. Just to explain, Thomas is going to read the description in a normal speed, okay? And it's our job to try to identify how much information we can get from that normal speed reading. After that, we'll go through it sentence by sentence, and we'll hear it one more time before we pass on to the next person. Thomas, bist du fertig?
Ja.
Also, los geht's.
Die erste Person. Er ist am 3. Januar 1969 in Deutschland geboren. Sein Bruder heißt Ralf. Er ist Rennfahrer von Beruf und im Moment fährt er in der Formel 1 für Mercedes. In der Vergangenheit ist er für Benetton und Ferrari gefahren. Er hat 7-mal die Weltmeisterschaft gewonnen.
Okay, I don't know about our listeners, but I certainly identified a few names in there, both personal names and perhaps company names also. Let's go through it a little more slowly. Can you read us sentence by sentence, and I'll perhaps pick up on some of the things that you say.
Okay. Er ist am 3. Januar 1969 in Deutschland geboren.
So in there, we've got a date, and we've also got a country, so we know where this person was born. Okay, can you tell us something about his family?
Sein Bruder heißt Ralf.
So we know what his brother is called, and that may give you a clue as to who we're talking about. The next part is?
Er ist Rennfahrer von Beruf und im Moment fährt er in der Formel 1 für Mercedes.
So again, we've got some words in there that we'll not understand, we'll not recognize because we've not covered these words, but we certainly heard Beruf, so we know that this is something to do with his profession. Is there any more information that you have for us?
Yes, I give you a little clue. In der Vergangenheit means in the past. So, in der Vergangenheit ist er für Benetton und Ferrari gefahren.
Okay, I think we're definitely getting there. What about the final part of this? Just one last detail.
Er hat 7-mal die Weltmeisterschaft gewonnen.
So in there we've heard a number. We've also heard the word mal. And we know what mal means because we've had it in phrases like nehmen Sie diese Tabletten 3-mal pro Tag?
Exactly.
So something has happened 7-mal.
7-mal.
And what is it that's happened 7-mal? Give us the whole sentence again.
Er hat 7-mal die Weltmeisterschaft gewonnen.
Okay. One more time, the whole thing.
Er ist am 3. Januar 1969 in Deutschland geboren. Sein Bruder heißt Ralf. Er ist Rennfahrer von Beruf und im Moment fährt er in der Formel 1 für Mercedes. In der Vergangenheit ist er für Benetton und Ferrari gefahren. Er hat 7-mal die Weltmeisterschaft gewonnen.
Okay, that is number 1. Let's move on to our mysterious identity, number 2.
Die zweite Person. Sie ist Australierin und ist am 28. Mai 1968 in Melbourne geboren. Von Beruf ist sie Sängerin und Schauspielerin. Sie hat eine Schwester mit dem Namen Danny und einen Bruder namens Brandon. Ein berühmtes Lied von ihr würde auf Deutsch "Ich kann dich nicht aus meinem Kopf bekommen" heißen.
Okay, there's some interesting information in there. We've definitely got a nationality, we've got a date, and also some information about what this person does. So let's have this split up into sentence by sentence.
Sie ist Australierin und ist am 28. Mai 1968 in Melbourne geboren.
So, again, we've got nationality in there, a nationality that we've not covered too much in the show, but we can guess it, and I'm sure that you've also worked out the date and her place of birth.
Von Beruf ist sie Sängerin und Schauspielerin.
So we're talking here, of course, about her Beruf, her profession, and the two professions that are mentioned aren't things that we've mentioned, but hopefully you've picked up what they are.
Sie hat eine Schwester mit dem Namen Danny und einen Bruder namens Brandon.
A little bit about this person's family.
Ein berühmtes Lied von ihr würde auf Deutsch "Ich kann dich nicht aus meinem Kopf bekommen" heißen.
Now this is a little tricky, this part. We're talking about ein Lied.
Ein Lied means a song, and we're talking about ein berühmtes Lied, so it's a famous song.
And the title of the song in this case is Auf Deutsch.
Yes, English would be too easy.
Absolutely. So let's hear what the title would be in German.
Ich kann dich nicht aus meinem Kopf bekommen.
And there are definitely words and expressions in there that we know. So the whole thing one more time.
Sie ist Australierin und ist am 28. Mai 1968 in Melbourne geboren. Von Beruf ist sie Sängerin und Schauspielerin. Sie hat eine Schwester mit dem Namen Danny und einen Bruder namens Brandon. Ein berühmtes Lied von ihr würde auf Deutsch "Ich kann dich nicht aus meinem Kopf bekommen" heißen.
Okay, that's number 2. It's time to move on to mysterious personality number 3.
Die dritte Person? Dieser Schweizer ist am 8. August 1981 geboren. Er spielt sehr gerne Tennis und auch sehr gut. Er ist einer der besten Tennisspieler der Welt. Er hat 2 Töchter, und zwar Zwillinge. Sie heißen Mile Rose und Charlene Riva. Seine Frau ist auch Tennisspielerin.
We've definitely picked up on a sport there. I think we've possibly also picked up on a nationality, so hopefully that's given you a really big clue for this one. Let's take it sentence by sentence.
Dieser Schweizer ist am 8. August 1981 geboren.
So again in there, we've got a nationality and a date.
Er spielt sehr gerne Tennis und auch sehr gut.
I'm sure you've picked up on the sport there and the fact that this person is probably quite good at this sport.
Er ist einer der besten Tennisspieler der Welt.
Now, the word Welt is a word that means
World.
world. So that's all we'll say there, okay?
Er hat 2 Töchter, und zwar Zwillinge.
Now, there should be extra points in this one just because you've mentioned und zwar. Okay, we don't necessarily know what the detail is in this one, but we definitely know something about his family.
Sie heißen Mile Rose und Charlene Riva. We also hear something about his wife. Seine Frau ist auch Tennisspielerin.
Okay, let's hear the whole of this one again.
Dieser Schweizer ist am 8. August 1981 geboren. Er spielt sehr gerne Tennis und auch sehr gut. Er ist einer der besten Tennisspieler der Welt. Er hat 2 Töchter, und zwar Zwillinge. Sie heißen Mile Rose und Charlene Riva. Seine Frau ist auch Tennisspielerin.
That was number 3, Nummer 3. Are we ready for number 4?
Die 4. Person? Los geht's. Er kommt aus Österreich. Er ist am 27. Januar 1756 geboren und ist am 5. Dezember 1791 gestorben. Er war Komponist und Musiker. Er hat in Bologna studiert. Seine Eltern heißen Anna und Leopold. Eine sehr berühmte Oper von ihm heißt Die Zauberflöte.
Okay, once again, we're going to split this up into sentence by sentence. Let's hear the first sentence.
Er kommt aus Österreich.
I think that's fairly straightforward in there.
Er ist am 27. Januar 1756 geboren und ist am 5. Dezember 1791 gestorben.
Now, that's including a phrase that we've not yet covered in our course. But the fact is we've got 2 dates in there, so I'm sure you can work out what happens on the first one and on the second one.
Er war Komponist und Musiker.
Something about his profession?
Maybe you noticed we said er war and the profession. It's because we're talking in the past and we don't use er ist.
Okay, so he was something. Er war.
Komponist und Musiker.
Okay, and we also heard something about his studies.
Er hat in Bologna studiert.
Something about his family.
Seine Eltern heißen Anna und Leopold.
And then the final point covered in this particular text mentioned something berühmte, and we already know what berühmte means.
Eine sehr berühmte Oper von ihm heißt Die Zauberflöte.
Now, the chances are you might not recognize die Zauberflöte, but if I give you a clue that the last part of that is some kind of musical instrument that's not a clavier or a guitarra, but that will hopefully help you identify what this particular famous thing is that we're talking about. Okay, one more time, the whole thing.
Er kommt aus Österreich. Er ist am 27. Januar 1756 geboren und ist am 5. Dezember 1791 gestorben. Er war Komponist und Musiker. Er hat in Bologna studiert. Seine Eltern heißen Anna und Leopold. Eine sehr berühmte Oper von ihm heißt Die Zauberflöte.
And it's time now for our final text. Who is our 5th mysterious person?
Die 5. Person? Diese Person ist am 31. Juli 1965 geboren. Sie kommt aus England, aber im Moment wohnt sie in Schottland. Sie liest sehr gerne Bücher und schreibt auch Bücher. Heute ist sie von Beruf Schriftstellerin. Ihr berühmtestes Werk hat 7 Bücher. Die Bücher gibt es auch als Filme. Allerdings sind es 8 Filme für die 7 Bücher. Sie hat 3 Kinder.
Now, there's quite a lot of complicated stuff in there. Let's go through the whole thing sentence by sentence.
Diese Person ist am 31. Juli 1965 geboren.
So we've got a date in there, geboren, when she was born.
Sie kommt aus England, aber im Moment wohnt sie in Schottland.
That should be straightforward enough.
Sie liest sehr gerne Bücher und schreibt auch Bücher.
Now we've heard one word 2 times, Bücher. And you should know what Bücher are.
Remember, Bücher is the plural of das Buch.
Okay. Now we heard something about her Beruf.
Heute ist sie von Beruf Schriftstellerin.
Something that we've not come across, but hopefully the mention of the Bücher will help you there.
Ihr berühmtestes Werk hat 7 Bücher.
So again, we're talking about something Berühmtes in some way.
Yes. Und die Bücher gibt es auch als Filme. Allerdings sind es 8 Filme für 7 Bücher.
Let's hear the last part of that sentence again, because that's quite important and it might give quite a clue.
Allerdings sind es 8 Filme für die 7 Bücher.
So 8 Filme für die 7 Bücher.
Exactly.
Okay.
Sie hat 3 Kinder.
So something about her family to end with. Let's hear the whole of that last one again.
Diese Person ist am 31. Juli 1965 geboren. Sie kommt aus England, aber im Moment wohnt sie in Schottland. Sie liest sehr gern Bücher und schreibt auch Bücher. Heute ist sie von Beruf Schriftstellerin. Ihr berühmtestes Werk hat 7 Bücher. Die Bücher gibt es auch als Filme. Allerdings sind es 8 Filme für die 7 Bücher. Sie hat 3 Kinder.
Excellent. So you now have 5 people that you have to identify. And as we said earlier, head over to coffeebreakgerman.com to find out if you can still take part in this quiz. So next time on Coffee Break German, we will tell you who these 5 people are. And there will also be a bit of review covering the last 30 lessons of our course. We've been talking about identities today. And just before we finish, we've got time to go over to Yulia, who's going to tell us about some other German, Austrian and Swiss people that you may have heard of.
Hallo ihr beiden und guten Tag an alle unsere Coffee Break German Zuhörer. Ich bin's wieder, Yulia, eure Kulturreporterin. Today you have been trying to identify all the different German, Austrian or Swiss celebrities Thomas and Mark have told you about. But don't worry, I won't continue questioning you. Instead, I thought it might be a good idea to tell you a bit more about other famous and important people that have contributed in different ways to the history, the culture and success of our 3 German-speaking countries. In case you're wondering, of course, none of these people are the answers to your quiz. I'm going to introduce 3 Germans in this episode and 3 Austrian and Swiss people next time. Of course, it isn't easy to choose just 3, and I'm sure we can come back to other famous Germans in a future episode. The first person I'd like to tell you about is Johann Sebastian Bach. As I'm sure you know, he was a German composer, organist, harpsichordist and violinist of the Baroque period. Bach was born am 31. März 1685. Did you get this? It was a bit tricky. So he was born on the 31st of March in 1685 in Eisenach, quite in the middle of Germany. And even as a child was surrounded by music, as his father was the director of the town musicians and all of his uncles were professional musicians too. Bach rose to fame when becoming the cantor of Thomasschule in Leipzig and the royal court composer to August III. Among his most famous compositions are the Brandenburg Concertos. Bach died on the 28th of July in 1750 in Leipzig, and even today Leipzig still celebrates its famous citizen with the annual Bachfest in June. He is now generally regarded as one of the main composers of the Baroque period and as one of the greatest composers of all time. The second German celebrity I will tell you about is Franz Beckenbauer. And although he is not a royal, we still call him Der Kaiser, the Emperor, alluding to his immense success in football, his elegant but also dominant style, his leadership qualities and his first name Franz, that of course reminds us of Austrian emperors. Beckenbauer was born on the 11th of September in 1945 in Munich. He looks back on a career as a German football coach, manager and former player. He is generally regarded as the greatest German footballer of all time, who was awarded European Footballer of the Year twice, has played in 3 World Cups, and is one of only 2 footballers to have won the World Cup both as a player and as a coach in 1974 and 1990. Even today, Beckenbauer remains an influential personality in both German and international football. Okay, I said that we were going to do 3 celebrities, but this episode is already pretty long, so we'll add our third famous German to the bonus episode for this lesson. Find out who we've chosen by listening to this bonus recording, which forms part of the Coffee Break German members' materials. Das war's für heute. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this overview of famous German personalities. Und jetzt wünsche ich euch viel Spaß. I wish you lots of fun guessing all the people Thomas and Mark told you about. Zurück zu den beiden ins Studio. Tschüss!
Also, das reicht für heute.
Es war eine sehr lange Episode.
I think that everyone will have enjoyed this episode, trying to identify these famous people. And the important thing is that we're really understanding that although we don't understand every word, you can pick out the important words. That's the purpose of today's lesson.
Even if you're already too late for the competition, I hope you still found it useful to figure out who the people are we're talking about and realizing that your German is at the level where you can follow a conversation.
Absolutely. Tune in next time to find out the secret identities. All will be revealed. Until then, vielen Dank und tschüss.
Bis zum nächsten Mal.
This is a production of the Radiolingua Network. Find out more at radiolingua.com.